Alrighty, guys. Kyle, you and I talked about this last week. I went from first to worst in a week, and unfortunately ended the month of September there.
Yeah.
Give me another week's time, though, and I have now gone from worst to first. So, let's go.
The role has flipped.
Yes.
Well, I'd say probably I haven't really been keeping close track as to what tanked you this week or tanked you last week and probably back up this week. But probably the same thing, I would guess.
It was all the crypto stuff, dude.
Yeah,
Crypto stuff
so-
was rocky, and then DraftKings just got absolutely pummeled.
That makes sense to me. So something tanked, you had the biggest share of it, so you lost.
Correct.
And now
That
it's
is
correcting.
exactly what happened.
You're correcting, so now you're in first place as you recoup those losses basically at the start of the month.
I've recouped those losses. My shares in commercial metals have recovered. DraftKings is still in the toilet over like the all-time, but for the
I'm
month,
surprised.
it's recovered nicely already. So,
I'm really surprised that DraftKings just continued to struggle. I guess.
well, so
Okay.
here's the thing with that, because I was looking into this the other day because I too was a little surprised by it. They were the target of I shouldn't say target, they were the subject of a Hindenburg report. And for those of you that don't know, Hindenburg is basically like the stock market's equivalent of like a private detective. Basically, their job is to find companies that are overvalued because they're doing illegal things and tell the general public, hey, you might want to look out for these people. We think this is kind of shady. So they had something going on there that they did not like. I think it had to do with had something to do with a black market and something to do with some type of interesting financial transactions. I don't remember the particulars exactly, but that was definitely part of it. I think too, just because sports betting is legal in more states in the United States does not mean that all of that money goes to DraftKings, right? There's a bunch of other companies that are all competing for market share right now. And so they're going to have to go through the phase where you kind of weed out some people, and you have to establish who are the big players in these new markets, not just who were the big players in states that already had it. So I still think by the end of American football season, this is a very different conversation. But for now, with all of that said, and the backdrops about inflation and U.S. uncertainty, that's where they're at right now. So it was unfortunate. I don't like losing, but I think that was only the second time I've done it, so I cannot complain too loudly. Well, let's see where you guys are at. I haven't checked that yet. All right.
I've carried over my position from the end of last month. Unfortunately, still sitting in second place now.
Very
Yeah, it kind of
nice.
sucked. Like, towards the end of last month, I just kind of dropped, I think.
Well, I mean, everybody did. But
Yeah, but unfortunately, I tanked from first to second. But it's unfortunate. No offense, it's not last.
Still looking for that first number one spot. But
Yeah, true. Still not. Still got a little bit of time for that.
every month is a new opportunity.
Yeah, a couple more chances at it.
Indeed. We've got a night chock full of news, though, so we're going to dive right into it because some of it has to do with how, well, at least one of us is doing as well as they are. So let's start with Tesla. Kyle, you and I have been waiting since the beginning to get back to zero.
We're almost there, I think.
We're almost there. We are almost there. All time, I am now down just 4%.
Ooh.
Which is still kind of a lot, but that's okay. But the reason I wanted to talk about them to start off tonight was that they posted record Q3 sales. Now, if you've watched the show for any amount of time, you will recall at least a handful of times that we've talked about why automakers and this chip shortage are bad news. And why sales volumes are bad, and why you may want to look at automotive manufacturers as a long-term hold. So against that backdrop, how is it possible that they have Q3 record sales? Great question. Glad you asked. They're doing something kind of interesting. They have decided that they're going to buy whatever chips they can get their hands on, and then they're going to reprogram the systems in the car to work off of whatever chips they can get their hands on, instead of waiting for the specific chips that the cars were originally engineered to use. Now, I am obviously not a computer scientist. The two of you obviously are. So, let's approach this from like a computer science 99 type of coursework here. Explain that process to me. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? Perhaps the dumbest question of them all: cars don't use all chips the same? Question mark.
Yeah. I think performance would be another huge thing too.
Okay.
Because, like, I mean, especially something like the self AI or the whatever self driving. I don't know.
The open beta for self-driving. Yep.
Yeah. So something like that, it's processing a lot of data very quickly, like a lot of visual data and stuff, and other sensors. So like something like that would need a lot of performance, and so I guess maybe, yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like that would definitely have a limitation. Maybe like there's some chips that they're not sacrificing on. Like they're like, well, we need this chip for that one. So, but other ones we have performance overhead that we're fine with. So, I don't know.
Okay. So then what, I guess, explain to me, what do you have to like re-engineer in your car to use a different kind of chip?
It kind of depends on what new chip
give
you
me a
get.
couple obvious ones. You know that I'm not very smart at this kind of stuff.
So like chips also contain like the basic set of instructions, like for the computer to do things. We'll just call it math, all right?
Okay.
The chips like have the instructions for basic math.
Okay.
Right? They tell you how the very basic math works, and then programs basically use the basic math and turn it into advanced math. We'll call that higher level programs.
Okay.
So if you get chips made by the same person, generally the basic math stays the same. And sometimes that's not true. Sometimes they find a better way to do math, so they do that, and then things change. If you buy chips from a different person, they probably don't use the same basic math. And since you're not using the same basic math, programs that were built on the chip need to use this different math.
Okay.
Than perhaps they were.
So you basically have
to
to reteach your car how to communicate with the chip.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on how many layers of abstraction they have going on. A lot of software is built around trying to remove that kind of thought from programmers. Like, people spend a lot of money trying to solve that problem, basically. I want my advanced math to work no matter who supplies me the basic math.
Yeah.
That is an expensive industry.
I got you. So then, the fact that they're doing this, does this just reinforce the narrative that Elon Musk is crazy, or that he is a genius, or somewhere in between? Because so far, they're the only people I've been able to find that made the choice to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, if you have the performance overhead and like capabilities to do that, like so like I'm sure there's a lot of other industries that can also just say, hey, we'll take whatever we can get. But I feel like I guess barring the self-driving capabilities, I think that's the only thing that I also don't know Teslas that well, but I would say that's probably the only thing that's really needing the performance. Like every other subsystem in the car can probably have like an alternative or like fairly equal performance chip.
Okay, so those are basic enough that the right person is going to make any chip that you put in there perform almost the same.
I would think so.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, but I feel like honestly, like if we compare it to other car companies, like manufacturers, like Ford, for example, a couple episodes ago we mentioned that they had like tons of just fully mechanically assembled vehicles, but they're waiting on chips to get the cars running. Like, I feel like something like that is, a lot of cars, like basic cars, are capable of probably just swapping out whatever like chip if they needed to, like processor if they needed to, because like other cars really don't have that much functionality. Like, oh, we need this thing to run the engine, and a lot of like custom car ECUs, engine control units, have like very minuscule amounts of data that they store on it, and like they have very basic subsets of instructions that they need to do.
Okay.
But I guess that might be why, because something like that is so tailored to like the basic instructions that it has to do is so tailored to what they need to do that maybe there's no alternative. Whereas a Tesla might be more like, hey, it's a computer that just runs all these electronic things, so it's fine if we swap it out.
That's an
so like maybe so maybe they're like, maybe Tesla's saying, hey, we're losing some profit, maybe we have to buy these chips at a slightly higher price or slightly lower price and sacrifice performance, but for the most part it's the same. Whereas like if you were to buy something for like the Fords, you'd probably have so much like cost overhead because like the chip is just way too high performing versus like compared to what they need to do.
I gotcha.
So maybe that's why the other companies can't do it.
Could also be because Tesla sells less cars.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like Ford, if they suddenly swap instruction sets, you know, like I assume all of their cars probably run on the same type of chip, like or a lot of their models, you know, outside of their sports models maybe that have like independent tire traction control or like special stuff where you need more processing power. So a lot of their more basic cars and trucks use a very similar chip, so they probably have these massive assembly lines built for parts using this very specific chip, and then maybe suddenly swapping that, you know, it's a lot of logistics that actually goes to, okay, well, versus Tesla, which is like, well, our orders for things aren't as big. Like Ford maybe places orders for their parts that are way too massive and way too far ahead of time for us to like, for them to just suddenly, you know, shift gears. Whereas Tesla maybe like, since we build cars more on demand, I guess like maybe it's easier for us to say, hey, let's stop production for a little bit, figure out, move this way laterally, and give a solution to move forward. And then like Kyle said, maybe Tesla's current level of production is so high that they have tolerances where they can be like, we can afford to lose quality. Or maybe they're even losing money by I mean, like, you buy a different chip, you could be buying a more expensive chip.
Right,
Like, they could be buying something even higher end just because, like, you know, like, it works, it fits in the car. Like, and they could just artificially limit it. Like, I don't know. Like, I wonder if, like, does a consumer care if you know you're getting a different chip? Do you care?
I feel like...
Me? Hell no.
Well, let's say they legitimately say it's a worse performing chip. Like, do you care? Do you need a discount now?
I mean,
yeah,
I don't like to know that something is worse, but given current market conditions, I think less people will care than they normally would.
Okay. Yeah, I guess like maybe they don't say it's worse. They say like we think it's as good, but we haven't tested that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm marketing a Tesla right now, I'm not saying a damn thing about the kind of chip that's in it. I'm just saying this is a Tesla. Do you want to buy one?
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty fair.
Yeah, I feel
that's
like...
a fair question, though. And I think that would be a really interesting one.
I feel like for the general consumer, they'd be like, maybe someone will ask, like, oh, what's the percentage of, like, how much worse is it? What percentage?
Yeah.
And then if it's within, like, a reasonable margin, they'd be like, okay, I'll just take the car as opposed to waiting, like, 7 months for my car.
Yep.
Sure.
So,
I guess, how worth is it? Like,
the opportunity
the
cost
trade-off?
of getting a car in a couple of weeks versus next year.
Kyle is right, though. The most, like, the probably most intense processing it is for the for assisted driving, you know, processing all the cameras and sensors and trying to
I'm sure it is.
How to keep you alive and on your route. So, like, you know, like, maybe people, I don't know if people know that, but if you think about it, like, if you're one of those people that's going to be really trusting your car to drive for you, like, you want 5% percentage hit. Like, is that
right? Yeah.
That, like,
that's just when you hope they
like,
compromise on the chips that went elsewhere. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
These are the good chips. I don't care if my infotainment console isn't as fast or responsive. Just
know,
don't
I
run
guess
me into the side of a bus.
They didn't specify like how those should
No.
like break down. They're not like the Model S is like getting this
Yeah.
quality versus
The
I
plaid
guess.
ones are getting all of the best chips because they're super fast, and everybody else gets garbage ones. No, they did not say that. It's an interesting strategy, though. I mean, it's obviously working. I'm curious to see how long they can keep it up. I think eventually the chip shortage will come for everybody, even them, but we'll see. But we alluded to it early on, right? The other big movers for most of us were crypto.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into those. I shouldn't say the single largest. One of the largest pieces of news, and I saw the headline and I laughed because at face value it's kind of silly, but I think it, in a way, neatly sums up the very interesting space that is crypto investments, that something like this could create such a massive change in price. El Salvador released content online that showed them installing a mining rig on a volcano. They have since mined $269 worth of Bitcoin at the time of this article, so it's probably more now. They have mined Bitcoin with it using geothermal energy harvested from this volcano. And crypto people went ballistic. Like, this was a large intraday move. Obviously it was a positive move. People were like, hey, this is really cool. Should we really be that excited about it, though? Like, geothermal energy has existed for a long time. I get it. El Salvador made it a national currency. Everybody's super excited to see what happens. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm all for, like, renewable energy and cool shit. But, like, this doesn't seem like it should have been responsible for quite as much of a move as it was.
I mean, I guess it's encouraging to see a country spend what is probably a lot of money.
I'm sure it wasn't cheap.
Like building something by a volcano, and whatever machine they used to do the mining, probably expensive.
Yep.
So I'm sure it's encouraging to see like someone spending that kind of money into the thing. I don't know. Like, it's hard to tell without knowing what type of like movement it was. Like, was it a lot of small investors buying crypto, or was it like some big whale decided I'm gonna buy a bunch?
I am not sure.
Like, was it some El Salvadorian businessman who was like, or businesswoman? We're not saying or not picking sides here, but
great
like,
question.
Were they just like, oh yeah, my country's going all in, I'm going all in, like.
Yeah, I'm looking as you ask these questions, and I don't, at least from this article, see that any of that is public information. But the other thing that I thought when I saw the headline initially was I'm wondering if this was just a little bit of relief for the crypto community in general after all of the crackdowns and the mining evictions and all the stuff going on in China. I'm wondering if this is like, hey, have we found a safe place kind of a thing? Is the market responding to that rather than the geothermal energy and the mining by the volcano?
Well, I mean, it could
is
be,
that the deeper underlying cause here?
Maybe. I mean, crypto also tanked at the end of last month, right? So what caused it to tank? Maybe people just got over their fear of that and bought it back. Like, that could also be.
Honestly, I think a lot of it had to do with interest rates and stuff going on at the Fed. The Fed was a hot mess. Fed still is kind of a hot mess, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I heard we're going to run out of money soon, so that's cool.
Oh, we're going to run out of money unless you want to use it to build things that kill people. If you want to use money to save the environment and rebuild the entire U.S. economy, we don't have money for that, apparently.
Military-industrial complex. I've had it explained to me, I guess, that the military-industrial complex just employs so many people. We just need to keep buying stuff for them to keep them employed, because that's a good thing. Which, as someone whose dad works at Boeing, I kind of understand. But at the same time, I feel like maybe not all of the money that we spend.
Well, and I feel like this is the thing. I don't want to derail this too much, but like, if they passed the largest form of each proposal that's currently on the table, it would be a third of the 2019 military budget. So even in its most expensive form, it is a third of everything that we spent to make sure that we could blow the living piss out of everybody else on planet Earth if we had to. Come on, guys, what are we doing? Joe Manchin, sign the damn bill.
It's a third of a big number, so it holds it up.
Yeah. I don't know. They're making me mad. But, yeah, I mean, I want to be excited. I think I am encouraged that other countries may follow El Salvador's lead here. But I do think a lot of it is more, they're looking for a safe place rather than, hey, this is a cool publicity stunt, we should all buy a bunch of extra Bitcoin. But that's me.
I could agree with that, I guess. I don't really know if a volcano. Well, it does sound really cool. I don't know.
Don't get me wrong, it sounds very cool. It sounds like some shit that's out of a movie. But
I guess it does give you the ideas that maybe, because mining is pretty much impossible at a consumer level now, but I guess it does give you ideas about how mining can be accomplished by entities with enough money to build volcano facilities.
So a bunch of people just go on the DuPont registry and the Robb Report and buy up a bunch of the world's volcanoes?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying, maybe it could be volcanoes, it could be a massive wind machine farm. Maybe
some type of hot spring in the middle of Wyoming.
Maybe you build one of those floating solar islands that they're doing in Asia or whatever.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah, they have some of those in Abu Dhabi, I think.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess the biggest problem is that it's hard to mine things because it takes a long time or a lot of power to get anything out of it. And so I guess if you can solve the power problem, maybe you could be one of the longest. You can be one of the last holdouts for actually mining what is left, but I actually have no idea how much has been mined out to.
There's a lot left.
There's a lot left, even though it's really
I want to say, I better look this up before I sound like a total idiot. So I want to say we'll run out sometime in 2100.
Holy.
That's what it's.
Well, I'm looking it up right now because I want to make sure. 2140.
2140, and that's for just Bitcoin. And
nearly 90% has already been mined.
Okay, so but 10% of the value it is right now is a large number, so it's
a large number. But yeah, if 2021, so if you're at 119 years to mine the last 10%.
That's everybody too. That's not just yours.
Yeah, that's everybody.
It's slow.
It's a challenging proposition.
That that 10% might be very, very valuable if the value keeps going up. So it might still be worth it.
True. I did see one other story on the topic of cryptos that I had to bring up because I know we have talked on this show before about Orlando the stock picking cat, who won the stock picking contest in a London newspaper. A German man and his hamster have turned crypto investing into a game. The hamster's name is Mr. Gox, and he runs his own portfolio. And basically how this works, he runs on his hamster wheel, and he live streams all this on Twitch if you want to go watch it. He runs on the wheel, which spins around and chooses a crypto by its ticker. And then he has two tunnels. One is a buy tunnel and one is a sell tunnel. And he runs through whichever one he wants to run through. And then the transaction is executed by his human handler, who chooses to remain anonymous. He says each transaction is about 20 euros worth of crypto. Obviously, they say it's for entertainment purposes only. And he has not yet made enough money back to pay for all of his things. However, as of this last weekend, he was up more than 16%, and he only started trading in June.
So they just buy and hold, or do they?
Well, so it
How did it
depends.
just
He
sell?
runs on the wheel, and then
And it decides if it sells.
and then it decides what he buys and sells when he goes through his tunnels. So, I mean, obviously things like this have no tangible impact on the price of it as a whole. But I continue to be amused by the level of creativity that people have when it comes to showing that, like, if you want to be like a badass professional at this, you can be, and you can learn all there is to know. But you really don't have to, as long as you're not going to do things that are dumb and overexpose you to too much risk.
Yeah.
So, I guess good for you, Mr. Gox.
That is true. Mr. Gox only makes €20 investments, so if
Yep.
it goes bad, he doesn't lose a lot. And
He does not.
given that when crypto goes good, it goes very good. It just needs a couple to hit.
I would argue that there's a higher ceiling than there is a lower floor. So
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's not like he can miss every time, right? That would be
No.
a really unlucky hamster. So.
Yeah.
if you had to pick one type of animal to manage investments, though, or at least pick them, what would you pick?
I'm not sure. Would I want something? I guess, do I want the process to really be as random as possible? Like, does the animal you think start showing preference for like a certain decision tree route? You know?
Well, and then so I'm glad you asked that question, because I think there's two ways you can take this. You can embrace as much randomness as possible and make sure that you pick an animal that does not have the intellectual capacity to differentiate them.
Yeah.
Or you could pick something like a parrot that has a relatively high IQ for an animal of its, size, genus, species, whatever, and hope that he figures out some
pattern
type
that
of
just-
preference pattern that becomes lucrative. Because in that scenario, too, you could potentially influence his preference pattern. If you like something that he picks, you could give him a nicer treat or a better reward than if he picks something that you don't like.
Higher value.
So, in that case, though, it's not truly on the animal because you're influencing it. So you better be on your game too. Or do you go the route of Mr. Gox and say, "Hey, P-Brain, just do your thing. Like, we'll see where this lands." It's a
For
hard
crypto-
question. I don't know what I would do.
For crypto, honestly, I think I'd want something that introduced more randomness. It's just such a crapshoot, anyways, in my mind. That I think that's
Kyle and
actually
his crypto
safer.
picking goldfish.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know, a goldfish or maybe some ants. Just drop an
Ooh.
ant in the middle, and just have like different rings for like different stuff to buy or sell, and just see which one it like walks over to first. Like it doesn't even have a sense of like where it is among the choices. I feel like given the scale of like the piece of paper and then like the ant, so won't be able
No,
to
I
really
mean, I
just.
think as long as they had like similar scents or whatever ants use to
Yeah.
detect objects. Yeah, I feel like that could be a pretty true experiment in randomness.
Maybe a turtle because it's slow and maybe that's better. It takes its time.
I feel like that's not very
I'm
good
really-
viewing though. If you're trying to
I'm
like
really
stream
sure.
this on Twitch, I'm not sure people are gonna watch a stock picking turtle.
That's true. If I'm trying to like this lucrative on the side by
Yeah, if this is
like,
a media
showing it off.
project, I think
You have
need
to
something
take
a
into
little
account the
faster.
speed of it too, because like by the time the turtle gets from the starting position to the end,
Oh yeah, like what if it's a good buy when it started, but like
Yeah.
you got there and it's like, oh shoot, dude, you
Yeah.
should be. It's like looking at the cell phone. You should be over there now.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Hmm. I don't know. I don't know why, but like, the thing that came to mind immediately was like an alligator, and I have absolutely no idea
How
why.
would you set that up?
I don't know. That sounds really dangerous.
You
You
have,
need
like,
to
two-
partner with like the Animal Kingdom or
Yeah, you like
one
have
of those
two
sanctuaries
pools in your
down in
backyard.
Florida.
Yeah.
Well, if you decide to do something really dangerous with your money, you have an out if you tank.
True.
The alligator will just eat you.
In that scenario, though, are you like putting a turkey leg with like the picture of each crypto on it, and then Like-
Yeah.
if he eats the whole turkey leg, is that a buy? If he ignores it, is it a sell? Like, I have
No.
questions about those mechanics because I don't know any alligator. Granted, I don't know
Yeah,
any
I'm not,
alligators
Or
that
is it
well.
just going to eat all of it?
I'm
But yeah,
not
it's
sure.
just gonna
Yeah,
eat all of them.
I'm not sure how to give an alligator a choice. You know,
Yeah.
like
You have to have a mechanic to differentiate between what you're buying and what you're selling.
yeah, and alligators kind of just seem to do what they want.
I mean,
And
they're
not care
essentially
about
functioning dinosaurs, right? So
Yeah.
cryptocurrency was not a thing hundreds of millions of years ago.
They don't really seem to care about like what happens to them. Have you guys seen that video of like one alligator eating, like ripping off the arm of another alligator while they're feeding, and the second one is just like, "Oh, bro."
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna keep eating.
Yeah.
Damn.
I've
It's just
not
like
seen
I
that
don't,
video, no.
I don't know how you like prod
Wow.
and like how do you like get an alligator to do like an action on or like
Yeah, that's true.
not
Actually.
on command, like you know like if it's like eat the turkey like or not, like it might just ignore you. Maybe that is so, but like I feel like that's kind of like maybe
that-
it's you instead of the turkey leg.
Maybe
Like,
that introduces another option. Like, oh, I think all these options are bad. I'm not touching any of them.
yeah, okay, maybe that's the
Alright.
too. Like he's like sell
Yeah.
everything right now.
Interesting. Huh. I feel like I would have to choose the parrot because even though you could potentially influence it, I like the idea of having some form of intelligence.
Mhm.
But again, if I'm trying to turn this into a media project, the parrot could talk.
Yeah, it'd be
And so
kind
I
of cool
think
if the
there's
parrot.
there's a very tangible entertainment factor there if the parrot just starts spouting off a bunch of gibberish, be it crypto related or not. I think that there's some entertainment value there that people would like.
I think it would be cool to just see like a parrot yelling, "Bye, bye, bye."
Yeah, that'd be great.
Like something out of what's that movie, Trading Places? Like that's my I don't know.
What,
That's
like
funny
Freaky
season.
Friday or something?
Yeah, well, just like any scene that shows like old timey like stock like Wall Street with like paper flying everywhere,
Oh,
and people
oh, I gotcha,
screaming
yeah.
at each other.
Yeah.
Like, no, it just sounds like a bunch of parrots to me. But apparently, a lot of money is being made and lost in those moments.
It's a very interesting system. Not as dramatic as it used to be, for sure.
For sure. But so
I do think my
Those-
dog would make a good subject for some of these because they're very food motivated. But again, I'm not sure how I would choose a buy or a sell because the second any edible component is introduced, she's going to eat them both.
Yeah, I guess that could be a problem too.
So I'd have to
Maybe
figure
it's
that
just
out.
the order. You know,
Yeah.
so if it's dry food first, then it's buy. Wet food first, it's sell.
Or if I hold it up and she goes to get it, is that a buy versus holding it on the ground as a sell? Like, I don't know.
Maybe.
Have to figure it out. 'Cause she would not run on a hamster wheel. Though I was playing golf the other day, and I did see it was a course where people lived right on it, and so you could see into the windows. And right next to this putting green, I go to pick up my ball out of the hole, and I look up, and right there in the window is a Dalmatian running on a treadmill. Like, shit you not. It was a real dog on a real treadmill just doing its thing.
I mean, I guess they have a lot of energy, so if you could teach it. How does
I mean,
it
I
get
tried not to
started, though?
stare, but I legitimately thought I was looking at
I would
something
say.
fake.
I would say, because that's a very controlled gait that it has, and then stopping, it has to learn how to stop on it.
Yeah, does it get off the side? Does it just...
I mean, I guess you could put the auto stop thing on it,
True.
attach it to
You
its
could set a
collar, and
timer.
then it's just like,
Oh,
Yeah,
it
I'm
learns
done.
to it just learns to jerk its head to stop it or something like
Yeah.
that. I guess
nice.
maybe it just jumps off the side, just
Maybe it's not even plugged in. Maybe it's just running at the speed that it runs at. Without
even
any
then,
power.
trying to stop it is a different kind of sensation. Just stopping running on a treadmill. It is kind of
It is. It's weird.
carpet sliding feeling.
It's weird.
So
But
yeah,
Yeah, that was weird.
dogs are probably smarter than we give them credit for. So
I'm sure they are. Speaking of people, though, who are dumber than we give them credit for, you ready for this? 2 regional Fed presidents. So you've got the Fed president of Boston and I want to say the other one is from Texas. Or were they both from Boston? Basically, they brought some unwanted attention upon themselves because they made some trades in their own personal investment accounts that kind of sort of looked like they were using some insider information based on what they were negotiating with the Washington, D.C. office of the Fed. And so now neither of those people are employed.
Nice.
So, I'm sure that surprises absolutely nobody, but gee willikers, people who are in charge of these kinds of things do indeed use insider information to make themselves more money. Who would have thought? The article said that the trades were made within the confines of what was deemed permissible, but did raise a red flag for possible conflict of interest. So how can you have both of those things? How is it made in a way that is legally permissible but also raises a red flag as, hey, this is kind of shady? Are those two things not mutually exclusive?
I mean, just because you do something that looks sus, I guess doesn't mean it is actually the thing you accuse it of. I guess, like, you could argue, like, hey, your bank calls you about shady activity or, like, potentially fraudulent activity, and sometimes you're like, no, I really did spend that money last night. That was not the smartest impulse buy, but it was me, you know? Like, I mean, so, now, do I really believe that this case falls into that? Probably not, you know? But, like, the question, can something, you know, be flagged as a warning and not be a violation? Yeah, sure, I guess. That's theoretically possible. Do I believe that it's the case in most times, which it seems to be ruled as? Like, it seems to be ruled that that's the case a lot of the times, right? Like, oh, it's close, but not actually. I feel like I feel like it's probably erring more on the other way, but they seem to feel the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Kyle, what do you think?
I also believe that, considering these are the people who make the rules for what you can and can't do, there's probably a way to do something where everyone with a brain agrees that you probably shouldn't have been able to do that, but there were no rules broken. Which
also
could
true.
also be, you know, like the same thing.
Yeah, I guess it's a little, yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's just weird, because, like, yeah, I mean, I guess they're not mutually exclusive, but I don't know how, like, they're playing, like, in a gray area type. I don't know.
I mean, they had to have, but here's the thing with gray areas, right? Is it a gray area if both of these guys have since been fired / tendered their resignation?
Probably not.
No, it's like not a gray area because there were consequences.
Like I said, I will give them that this area may exist. If you asked me to come up with an example of behavior that fit that description, I think I would have a hard time giving you one. Like,
Yeah.
I can accept that maybe there is a gray area where it looks like you did something bad but you did it.
Yeah.
Can you show me how that's possible? Because I don't know how that's possible. It seems like to me when you think you're doing something bad, you probably are. But like apparently that's not true. So like, can you show me? I'm interested in like why was it flagged, and then why was it not deemed? Like I could accept that that's true if you explain it to me. Problem is like the lack of explanation for what occurred. They just say,
yeah,
we looked into it. It was okay.
Well, and I don't think that they fully investigated it. This is relatively recent, so I'm sure more of that will come out. But yeah, we'll see.
Like, I guess if you looked at a different field in like sports betting, if you told me a player was involved in betting, I would say that's definitely suspicious.
Yeah, it's not even legal.
Yeah, well, no, exactly right. But like, if you told me like for Pete Rose, they could only prove that he bet on his teams to win, like that, like to me, like I could see. I know it's not, but I could see someone arguing that that is suspicious, but it should be a broken rule. Maybe
Yeah,
a
I
set of
mean,
rules.
you could make the argument because they only bet on them to win that there's no involvement in them influencing the result
Yeah.
beyond what they would normally be doing.
Yeah, so you
Right?
can
Yeah.
make that argument, and it's not true, but you could make that argument. So maybe there is a way in political, like with a lawmaker or not a lawmaker, a federal regulator, to also invest in a way that is norm, like it deemed not to have affected the outcome, and it just so happens that it hits a lot, but. You would really have to explain to me, like, how do you know that, like, I can understand how a player on a team wants to win, and that is the goal. And, like, so betting on that really shouldn't change their desire. Now, you could insinuate he paid the other team to lose, but that's a different argument.
Yeah.
So I don't know how a federal regulator puts that, like, like, my job is to do X, so I was just betting on myself doing my job. Like, that's... I don't know how you would spin that.
I don't think there is a way to spin that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll give them that it could exist, but I will say they didn't prove it to me. So
No. I think it had something to do with interest rates in housing or like real estate investment trusts or something. I'll have
it's just
to look.
amazing. Like you pointed out that it'd be illegal to bet on yourself like that as a player. It's just amazing that athletes and like sports reporters are more restricted than lawmakers and federal
Yeah.
regulators
Yep.
on the types of bets they make.
Yeah, I mean that's actually a very excellent point. It used to be that if you were going to be in a lot of these elected and appointed positions, you had to divest yourself of your holdings or make sure that somebody else was managing them for you who did not have access to the same level of inside information that you did. That is obviously not the case anymore, which is why you have people who take all of their money from lobbyists and don't do what we elect them to do. But yeah, isn't it pretty damn crazy that Evander Kane could get in more trouble than the chairman of the Boston branch of the Federal Reserve? Pretty damn interesting, isn't it? Anyway. Our last topic of the night, and I'm really glad that we're filming this a little bit later than usual because now we get to dig into this in all of its juicy glory. I'm sure the two of you, like everybody else on all of planet Earth, are aware that Facebook had the longest crash in the history of the company on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a handful of things to unpack here. One is that Mark Zuckerberg lost like $6 billion in a day. Which
So
is...
did he actually? I'm a little confused on that number. So did he lose $6 billion?
I think it was the value of the stock that he had.
So it went down. The
Yes.
value of the stock went
The
down.
stock
went down.
tanked.
Okay. So I saw that and I was kind of confused. I was like, is that potential earnings he missed out on? Because then you're not losing anything. Even value of stock. I
He
think,
lost $7 billion in net
There-
worth.
There are theoretical losses, but like he still owns those shares. They could go
Right.
back up.
So
7
good.
billion.
Yeah.
Which, given that, yes, it was the longest outing of Facebook ever,
Yeah.
and it was like 7 hours.
Yep.
Like,
So
yes.
Facebook for the year, they're down 15% since mid-September,
Okay.
but 5% came on Monday.
I'm kind of confused.
So
What
5% in a day is really damn bad. That's a bad
it is bad, but like, so why did they lose so much? Like, honestly, like if you were invested in Facebook, what about yesterday caused you to sell? I'm kind of confused.
That's a great question. I honestly don't have an answer for you. The only thing that I could think of offhand is that if the platform is down, you're obviously not making money.
Right.
Something like this is obviously very bad for the public relations of the company. And if you know that a company is in trouble, but you believe in it long term, do you sell off the gains that you have to buy the dip subsequently?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. But
For the first two,
it's a
I would
very
argue-
valid question, though.
So for the first two, I would argue like okay, yeah, if Facebook is not running, it is not actively making money in the terms that it's not collecting any new data and it's not serving ads, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would assume, I mean, 7 hours is not a good amount of time to go be down, but
No.
in terms of like contract for having ads running all year or for even a financial quarter, it's a small fraction of the time.
True.
And then not collecting new data sucks, but I'm sure Facebook has a lot of ways to generate revenue off the data they have already collected.
True.
So I don't know why that would really worry you. And then, like,
Honestly,
I
I think
don't-
it has more to do with what's going on with them in the Capitol right now.
yeah, I think that would probably, and then this is just like a reason to dump, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like I said, like yeah, like Facebook's reputation of being like this was the longest outing ever, and Facebook has never suffered anything like this before. Like this is,
No, and this
not like they have a
whistleblower
repu-
lady is out for blood.
yeah, I like
She's
the
not
outing,
pulling any punches.
The outing is not indicative of like instability on Facebook's like servers. I don't think.
Mhm.
Like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe suddenly we'll have an outing every week, and in which case, yes.
I think this
Facebook
had
is-
something to do with internal DNS.
Yeah, they messed up their DNS records, and thus no one could find their servers anymore. And
Yeah.
that's not a good thing. But that's not some. It's not like they say like our servers are broken. Like,
No.
our computers are broken. And we
Our
need to
servers
find
do
an
not
alternate
exist
hosting.
anymore. They do not.
Yeah,
they
like
did not
I
say
mean, the internet thought they didn't exist, so that was
Yeah.
bad. But this is a solvable problem. Like, and that's I'm sure 9 million safeguards were added to the time since that
Uh-huh.
it's occurred.
So I'm not sure. Like, to me, 5%. Like, I don't know. It seems like massive. Like,
Does the average Facebook investor really care about Facebook going down like for 7 hours? Like,
Well, I
Go
mean,
ahead.
like, it because the other subsidiary or like other companies that are owned by Facebook, like WhatsApp and Instagram, are not like
yeah, they went
publicly
down
traded,
too, right? Yeah. So I guess, yeah, like if you're like, well, people might just leave any of those platforms. Then I mean, yeah, like I feel like WhatsApp to me would probably be like the worst one to be down. I mean, as much as your social media is important to everyone, like it's not critical that you view it. Like
Right.
some people use WhatsApp to do all their messaging. 7 hours is a long time to not have a phone suddenly.
Yeah.
Plan.
Yeah.
So I can see a lot of people saying like, "Hey, we signed up for some other service that gives
Yeah.
me messaging for free or whatever, and I'm just going to use that." I mean,
Yep.
I feel like most people use WhatsApp because isn't it like encrypted too end to end? That's like it's a big thing.
I believe it has like it's pretty sure it's end-to-end encryption.
Yeah, so I think that's the other thing, but I'm sure there's other competitors now. So
Yeah,
maybe
they're now introducing it.
maybe that is a reason that people got. I guess yeah, I could see that being more negatively affected by a 7-day outing. But for Facebook,
Yeah.
it's like all the profiles were already there. How many people really sign up to Facebook a day? Like, what is the rate of new users? Is it really like is it super high compared to your peak? Probably not, right? So like those people that you
doubt it.
lost, those people that couldn't sign up during those 7 hours, like was that like a huge missed out opportunity? Probably not too. So like it's hard to see why. But like Jordan said, there's a lot of other things going on with Facebook.
I think it is the other things. I think the outage gave people a reason to take some more action.
Mm-hmm.
Where really the root cause is probably this lady coming out and saying, hey, they care more about making money than like the fate of democracy and public discourse. You should really regulate these people. Like, nothing scares a shareholder more than impending government regulation. Not inflation, not the end of the world as we know it. Like, nothing will scare them more than potential government intervention. And so I honestly think that's where a lot of this is coming from. The timing of it was just very, very bad. That it also happened to come out at the same time as you suffer the largest outage in the history of the company. So, I'm curious to see what happens, though. On the one hand, I would like to see somebody attempt to rein in a little bit of what they're doing over there. On the other hand, though, I am terrified that we're about to be in a situation where a bunch of people who don't know how the internet works are writing rules on how to regulate the internet.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is terrifying.
It's
Like,
definitely a problem.
we all probably watched the last time he got called to testify before Congress after the 2016 election. Some of the questions that were asked of him in that hearing were objectively stupid questions. Like, I'm usually one of those people who's like, there's no such thing as a dumb question. There were some real dumb questions. Like,
It is hard, especially when you consider that most of the people in government are not like, I guess, in government. Most of the people at the highest levels of government tend to be older, maybe not as tech savvy.
yep.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and they're also
Like-
not the people who use their own stuff, right? You have teams of people who do all of that stuff for you. It's like, do you even know how it works? Probably not. So, I'm all for trying to figure it out, don't get me wrong, but
Well,
please
it gets
have
to the
that
point-
stuff written by people who actually know how it works.
Yeah, it gets to the point where you want to have like experts, I guess, like kind of like expert testimonial. Like, they do that for like medical and other.
Yes, but are your
Yeah.
experts actually
Well, yeah.
interested in regulating the company, or are your experts interested in saving their own ass?
Yeah.
And so, this regulation seems like a good compromise, and really it doesn't do anything.
Also, the certification for an expert in technology is a lot like for
Very
medical
loose.
field. You can be like, okay, you know, you got a medical doctorate, a U.S. from a accredited U.S. medical school. That gives a certain level of like confidence in most people's mind about the person who is talking. Like,
Yeah.
right? Like, not really an equivalent for that. I mean, like, you can get people with doctorates in different computer science or like computing fields or engineering fields and tech fields
Mm-hmm.
or masters or like a lot of the famous people don't have degrees at all. Like what?
Yep.
Like like Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs dropped out of college. It's a big thing. Like, so
Yeah.
are they not experts? Like it becomes. And then like, that's the other thing. Like, are they experts? Like, like I mean, like I would say that they probably are, qualified to speak on at least broad sense general technology fields like
Yep, I would
net
agree.
neutrality and things like that. But like, is Bill Gates an expert on cybersecurity? No,
No.
he's not.
Yeah, he
Like,
pays
right?
someone to do that.
Yeah, right. Like, so, like, where do you find that guy, right? Like, so it becomes kind of an interesting thing. 'Cause, like, a lot of the big people that are known in tech, they're really known in tech for being businessmen more than or businesswomen more than they are for being programmers. Like, programmers and those kind of people aren't famous outside of programming. like that's not really who you normally hear about. So it's kind of hard.
So then let me pose you a hypothetical before we wrap this up. If we're just armchair quarterbacking this, and you find out that the government is going to regulate social media so that the average person can only see a certain number of ads in a day, and that they can only be targeted based off of like publicly disclosed interests and geography. How much do the shares of Facebook drop on that announcement?
Well, so you can only get ads targeted you a certain way, but
Assume just for shits and giggles in this nightmare scenario that there's also no more cross-platform targeting.
I guess, well then, yeah, you're
Ooh.
screwed because, like, I mean, like Facebook, if Facebook can't serve ads to you, they can say, well, we can still collect a lot of data to you, give it to people who know how to use it, and then they can give you ads, targeted ads, however they want. They can serve that to you through Google. They can pay people on TV to run their ad if that's what their target audience watches a lot. Like,
Yep.
There are ways for Facebook to survive. Say, like, hey, okay, we can't show them the ads directly anymore. We can tell you exactly where to go to show them.
Yeah.
If you say that they can't do that anymore, then yeah, I don't really know how much money Facebook is making anymore.
Or,
Yeah.
plot twist, Maybe they have to pay their users a commission for the use
well, so,
of their
yeah,
data.
Okay, that, or what are the rules on like influencers? Are those ads? Are those targeted ads? Like, did you just
They're
pay a bunch of
usually not
influencers?
targeted ads. It's normally just disclosed as this is like a partnership.
Yeah, so I mean,
Like they sponsored my podcast episode, or
So-
they sent me this box of stuff.
so like, let's say the regulation is that you can't target ads anymore. Let's just say Facebook just pays a bunch of people to post about the products that they want to advertise, but I'm not advertising it. Someone else is advertising to you, and it just happens to show up on your feed. Like, is that legal? Does that get around the regulation? Like, there are ways for Facebook to say, like, okay,
There are ways to get around anything.
I do think it is a massive hit because they like just the fact that you have to come up with a way is not good, right? Like, that's not good. So, I think it takes a massive hit. I'm not sure if it really survives it. But I do think that they would put up a fight.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not optimistic on the chances of that happening, but it's an interesting thought experiment just because social media as we know it has been around for so long now. I guess in terms of the lifespan of the internet, right? Social media as an established tenet of that has been around for so long that any substantial change to that would dramatically remake that landscape, which I think would be very, very interesting and very dramatic for a lot of people. Well, riveting discussion as always. Thanks for indulging all of my ridiculous hypothetical questions about animals and volcanoes and Mark Zuckerberg finally getting his ass chewed out by Congress. Any immediate or impending moves for the portfolios as we stare down the barrel at the rest of October?
I can't say that I have anything planned. Kind of a cop-out answer, but I feel like everything's either pretty decent, so maybe there are some places where I can like lock in some gains, but there's also like the things that I would want to actually get rid of are like so far in the red that I don't want to take the loss.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Kyle, anything planned?
No, like you said, crypto's currently up, so maybe I should get rid of it. It's currently up. Not sure. Like that's the one I'm shakier on, but
The age-old
I'm hol-
question: do you
definitely
believe
holding
that
on
it
to-
breaks through again or not?
definitely holding on to Boeing because it's basically holding even all time, or it's basically holding even on the month, and I do think that they could benefit from spending on military being announced, which is likely. So probably holding on to that. Holding on to Shopify because all time it's doing really well, even though it's slightly down this month. I think that it's fine. I'll just ride that out and hope that continues to go up overall. Yeah, definitely holding on to Tesla now that we're getting close to 0% again. Come on.
Yep.
Can't give that up.
Nah.
We've held on this long. We might as well break even at least.
You've
I'm
ridden
getting
the roller
something out.
coaster this far. You may as well pose for your picture on the last drop, right?
Yes, I'm getting something out of this sword blowing up.
There you go. Alrighty, guys. Good luck this week. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, see you guys.
Yep.
Bye.
See ya.